When the Invictus appeared above Threxia, the stars seemed to vanish behind its vast frame. The ship's hull glowed with faint blue lines, its engines pulsing like the heartbeat of a giant. To the terrified Threxians on the surface, the dark shape was first mistaken for another Vortal warship. Panic spread through the remaining cities. People hid in ruins, waiting for the next wave of fire from the sky. But no bombardment came. Instead, a strange, calm voice echoed from the emergency radios still working across the planet. Attention, citizens of Threxia. This is Captain Darius Holt of the Terran starship Invictus. We received your distress signal. We are here to help. For a moment, the Threxians didn't believe it. A new species, from the Deathworld, helping them, Commander Lathan, still alive, in the damaged communications tower, turned toward Sareth. Did you hear that? They came. Sareth stared at the transmission screen. They answered. The signal worked. Lathan allowed himself a small smile. Then maybe hope is not gone after all. Above the planet, Captain Holt studied the tactical display. Red dots filled the holographic map. Enemy ships, many larger than destroyers. The Vortal fleet was regrouping, scanning the newcomer that had just appeared out of nowhere. His first officer, Ava Morgan, pointed at the readings. Sir, they're trying to identify us. Scanners are active across all frequencies. Let them look, Holt said calmly. They'll understand soon enough. He walked toward the command podium. Weapons, status. Main railguns charged. Plasma batteries ready. Shield matrix stable at 99%, reported the weapons officer. Good, Holt replied. Open the external comms. Broadcast to all hostile ships. The communications officer hesitated. Message ready, sir. What should we transmit? Holt looked out the bridge window at the burning planet below. His voice was cold and steady. This is Captain Darius Holt of the Terran starship Invictus. You are attacking a civilian world. You will withdraw immediately. Failure to comply will result in forceful removal. The message went out. Seconds later, a harsh voice came back, deep and mechanical, full of arrogance. Unknown vessel, you interfere in Dominion operations. Withdraw or be destroyed. Ava looked at Holt. What now? He didn't answer right away. He simply turned to the gunnery deck. Target the lead cruiser. One warning shot. The Invictus main railgun hummed. The entire ship shook slightly as a streak of blue-white energy tore through the void. It crossed the distance in seconds. A line of pure light that struck the Vortal cruiser dead center. The enemy ship exploded in silence, its metal body breaking apart like glass. No one on the bridge spoke for several seconds. Then the sensor officer whispered, "Target neutralized." Holt nodded once. That was the warning. The rest of the Vortal fleet reacted with fury. Dozens of ships changed formation, moving toward the Invictus. Their cannons lit up and streams of plasma fire filled the black sky. Inside the Invictus, alarms rang softly, not in panic, but as routine alerts. The bridge lights dimmed, the ship's shields absorbed the first impacts like ripples on water. Shields at 96%, Ava reported. Holt gave the order. Return fire. The Invictus unleashed its full power. Railguns fired in rhythm, plasma batteries spat golden light, and missile pods launched in arcs that looked like falling stars. Each shot was precise, controlled, human warfare at its most efficient. The Vortal ships had numbers, but the Invictus had strategy. In minutes, 3 enemy vessels were gone. 2 more turned away, damaged. The others circled cautiously, unsure if this single ship was truly capable of such destruction. Meanwhile, on the planet below, the Threxians watched the sky. From the ruins, Sareth saw flashes of light in orbit, silent battles painting the heavens. She felt the ground rumble as pieces of burning metal fell through the atmosphere. Lathan spoke quietly. They are fighting for us. Sareth could hardly believe it. One ship, against all that? Yes, Lathan said. A Deathworld ship. Back aboard the Invictus, damage control teams moved through the corridors. Human engineers in armored suits repaired shield relays and coolant lines. The air smelled faintly of metal and ozone. Down in the launch bay, Lieutenant Omar Wren, leader of the Marine Landing Division, prepared his team. Rows of dropships were ready, engines humming. "Orders are clear," he told his soldiers. "We're going down there to protect civilians and secure the surface. Expect hostile fire. Keep your helmets sealed, stay in formation." A young recruit raised his hand. "Sir, what kind of aliens are they?" Wren shrugged. "Doesn't matter. They called for help. That's enough." The bay lights turned green. The dropships launched one after another, diving toward the burning planet. Sareth and Lathan were guiding a group of survivors through the city ruins when they heard a new sound, a deep, steady roar from above. They looked up to see metallic shapes cutting through the smoke. Shiny craft with blue lights landed in the plaza ahead. The ramps lowered, and armored figures stepped out, tall, strong, faces hidden behind visors. Sareth froze. "Are those humans?" One of the figures approached slowly, raising an open hand. His voice came through a translator unit, calm and firm. "We're here to help. Stay behind us." The Threxians could hardly move. These Deathworlders, the species everyone in the galaxy feared, were gentle in their movements, careful not to frighten the civilians. The soldiers spread out, setting up energy barriers, scanning for threats. Medical drones floated down, treating the wounded with soft blue light. Sareth stared at one of the Marines. "You came all this way, just to help us?" The human soldier smiled beneath his helmet. "That's what we do." Up in orbit, the Invictus continued to battle. The Vortal flagship entered the fight, firing a storm of plasma bolts. One shot hit the Invictus's port side, shaking the whole ship. "Shields down to 72%, shouted the sensor officer. Ava's voice was steady. "Hull breach on deck 12. Containment field active." Holt studied the tactical display. The enemy flagship was enormous, nearly the size of the Invictus, but its movements were predictable, too confident. He leaned over to the helm. "Plot a course directly beneath their formation. Prepare the ventral cannons." Ava blinked. "You're going under them." "Exactly," Holt said. "They won't expect it." The Invictus dove, engines flaring. The massive Terran ship slipped beneath the enemy fleet, avoiding a rain of plasma fire. When it emerged below the Vortal flagship, Holt gave the final order. "Fire everything." A wave of blue energy erupted upward, railgun slugs, plasma bursts, and missiles, all striking at once. The enemy flagship's shields shattered. Its reactor core went critical. Seconds later, it exploded in a silent flash, scattering debris across orbit. The remaining Vortal ships began to retreat. On the surface, the Threxians saw streaks of light in the sky, the enemy fleet breaking apart, falling back into the darkness. Sareth felt tears fill her eyes. "They're leaving." Lathan looked up at the stars and whispered, "Because someone stood up to them. The humans had done what no one else dared." On the Invictus bridge, silence replaced the sound of battle. The stars were calm again. The damaged ship glowed faintly as repair drones moved across its hull. Ava exhaled slowly. "We did it." Holt looked at the burning world below. "No," he said softly. "We only started. They still need us down there." He turned to his crew. "Send word to the surface teams. Begin full-scale evacuation of civilians, medical aid, food, shelter, everything we have." He paused, then added quietly, "Let's show them what Deathworlders really are." Down. Below, Sareth watched as human dropships flew across the horizon, carrying supplies and rescuing families. She stood beside Lathan, her voice full of wonder. "They came from a world everyone fears," she said, "and they fight like thunder, but their hearts are kind." Lathan nodded. "Maybe that is why they survive." And as the light of dawn touched the wounded city, the people of Threxia finally believed that the universe still had hope, and that it had come from the most unexpected world of all. The first sunrise after the humans' arrival was strange for the Threxians. The skies were still gray with smoke, but for the first time in months, no enemy ships fired upon their cities. From the ruined capital, survivors gathered around the human landing zones. Massive Terran dropships carried crates of food, water, and energy cells. Drones hovered above, scanning the area for survivors trapped under debris. Sereth watched as a group of human engineers used portable machines to rebuild damaged power lines. Their tools hummed softly, glowing blue. Even in a broken city, their movements were steady, calm, almost hopeful. They repair everything they touch, she said quietly. Beside her, Commander Lathan nodded. They came from a world full of storms and danger. I think they are used to rebuilding. Sereth looked at the humans and their strong armor, their quiet teamwork, and felt something new inside her chest. It was not fear anymore. It was admiration. In orbit, Captain Darius Holt stood on the Invictus's bridge, staring at the tactical screen. Ava Morgan, his first officer, reported grimly, "We have detected new signatures beyond the system's edge. The Vortal reinforcements are on their way." "How many?" Holt asked. "Too many, sir. At least a full battle group. 30 warships, maybe more." The captain didn't flinch. "They won't stop until Threxia is gone." Ava nodded. "Then we make sure they never get the chance." Hours later, a new wave of enemy ships jumped into the system. Their arrival tore through the darkness like red fire. The Vortal fleet spread into attack formation, a wall of black and crimson metal stretching across the stars. The Invictus stood alone between them and the wounded planet. Its hull still showed scars from the first battle, but its core burned bright and strong. Inside the command center, Holt looked at his crew. "All stations, prepare for combat. This time, we fight for real." His voice was calm, but every word carried the weight of Earth's defiance. "Bring the Threxian survivors under planetary shields. All dropships must return. The moment they cross into range, we engage." On the planet below, the Threxians watched the sky darken again. The sound of thunder filled the air, not from weather but from the Invictus cannons firing into orbit. Sereth stood near a human camp as the ground shook. "They're fighting again," she whispered. Lathan nodded. "For us. A single ship against an army." Nearby, a group of human Marines prepared to defend the city if the battle reached the surface. One of them, Lieutenant Omar Wren, overheard the Threxians' words and smiled. He spoke gently through his translator. "Our captain doesn't like bullies. That's all you need to know." The second battle of Threxia began. The Vortal fleet unleashed a storm of plasma fire. Beams of light and energy crossed space like 1,000 comets. The Invictus responded with railgun salvos, each slug cutting through enemy shields with terrifying precision. "Direct hit on enemy cruiser," shouted the weapons officer. "Target the next," Holt commanded. The Invictus moved like a living creature, its engines burning blue trails as it dodged and countered. Enemy ships surrounded it on all sides, yet the Terran warship refused to fall. Ava's hands danced across her console. "Forward shields down to 60%, but the reactor is stable." "Good," Holt said. "Divert auxiliary power to the dorsal batteries. Focus on their command ship." Another explosion lit up the bridge display. The crew cheered quietly. The humans didn't fight for victory. They fought because someone had to stand between the weak and the cruel. As the battle grew, Holt made a decision that shocked his crew. "Bring us into the upper atmosphere," he ordered. Ava looked startled. "Sir, that's inside the gravity well. If we take a hit there, we could lose control." Holt's eyes were steady. "They expect us to stay in orbit. We'll draw them lower, closer to Threxia's gravity. Make them follow us." The Invictus descended slowly, flames wrapping around its hull as it entered the planet's thin upper air. The Vortal commanders, seeing the massive ship dropping, ordered pursuit. Soon dozens of enemy ships chased after it, firing continuously. Their shots scorched the clouds, but Holt had a plan. "Helm, prepare to cut thrust on my mark," he said. "Weapons, lock all missiles on the lead pursuers." "Understood, Captain." The Vortal ships came closer, until they were caught in Threxia's gravity field. "Now," Holt ordered. The Invictus flipped, firing every thruster at full power while launching hundreds of missiles downward. The sudden burst of gravity and explosions threw the enemy formation into chaos. Several ships lost control and spiraled into the atmosphere, burning like falling stars. The crew erupted in applause. "Several hostiles destroyed, sir," Ava reported. Holt allowed himself a thin smile. "That should teach them to underestimate Deathworlders." Down below, the Threxians watched bright trails across the sky. To them, it looked like the heavens themselves were fighting back. Cirith whispered, "The stars burn for us." Lathan placed a hand over his chest. "No, for justice." But the battle was not over. The Vortal command ship, larger than any before, appeared from hyperspace. It was shaped like a blade surrounded by red lightning. Its weapons glowed with terrible energy. Sensors aboard the Invictus screamed with alarms. Ava's voice was urgent. "New contact. It's massive." Holt narrowed his eyes. "So the real commander finally arrives." The Vortal flagship opened fire. A single beam hit the Invictus, shaking it violently. Sparks flew across the bridge. "Shields at 40%, the sensor officer shouted. "Reactor output stable, but hull plating on the port side is failing," another voice called. Holt gripped the railing. "Keep us steady. Focus all remaining power on forward weapons." Ava hesitated. "Sir, if we use everything, we'll have no energy for shields." He nodded. "Then we don't get hit." The Invictus surged forward. Its engines screamed as it accelerated straight toward the Vortal flagship. Missiles streaked ahead, followed by railgun rounds that ripped through space. The enemy fired again. The beam passed so close it burned part of the Invictus's outer armor. But Holt never slowed down. At the last second, he gave the final command. "All guns, fire!" Every weapon on the ship released at once. The combined blast struck the enemy's central hull, cracking it open like glass. Energy rippled across its surface, and then silence. The Vortal flagship broke apart. Its wreckage scattered into the void. The surviving enemy ships, seeing their leader destroyed, began retreating from the system. One by one, their engines flared and vanished into hyperspace. The battle was over. Inside the Invictus, the lights flickered but stayed on. The crew stared at the screens, unable to believe what they'd just done. Ava exhaled slowly. We won." Holt stood silently, looking out at the peaceful curve of Threxia below. "Send word to all ships," he said softly. "The sky is clear. Begin rescue operations." He turned to his crew and added, "And record this battle. Let history remember that when others ran, humanity stood its ground." On the planet, cheers echoed through the broken streets. The Threxians looked up at the quiet sky, free of enemy ships for the first time in their lives. Sareth and Lathan stood among the survivors. "They did it," Sareth whispered. "They actually did it," Lathan smiled faintly. "The Deathworlders came when no one else would." Human soldiers began returning to the surface, bringing supplies and helping the injured. The air smelled of smoke and dust, but also something else: renewal. Sareth walked toward a landing zone where Lieutenant Wren's team was unloading aid. She looked at him and said, "Your people saved ours. We will never forget this." Wren shook his head. "We didn't come for thanks. We came because you called for help, and that's what we do." High above, the Invictus drifted quietly, scarred but unbroken. Its hull reflected the light of Threxia's sun. Inside, Captain Holt wrote his report, and not about victory but about survival, courage, and unity. In his log, he wrote, "The galaxy calls us Deathworlders. Maybe that's true, but they forget what that means. On Earth, we learned to survive anything: storms, fire, hunger, fear. And now we use that strength not to conquer but to protect." He closed the log and looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, more signals might come, more cries for help. And if they did, humanity would be ready again. The Deathworlders had proven their name didn't mean destroyers. It meant defenders and of life itself. The sky above Threxia was calm for the first time in decades. Smoke from burning cities drifted slowly into space, but there was no sound of warships or falling debris. For the Threxians, it was a day unlike any other. The day the universe reminded them that hope could exist even in the darkest hours. From a hill overlooking the capital, Sareth Velor stood with Commander Lathan, watching the Invictus hover above like a mountain of metal and light. The warship, though scarred from battle, remained upright, its shields pulsing faintly, engines glowing. It was a living symbol of power and protection. "They came from a world no one dared to challenge," Sareth said softly. "And they fought. For us," Lathan nodded. "Not just for us. For every life the Vortal would have destroyed. That is why they are different. That is why they are human." Down below, the humans were helping survivors. Engineers and Marines moved through the streets, lifting debris, distributing food, and treating the wounded. Medical drones hovered above, casting blue light over broken structures as they healed burns and wounds. Children who had huddled in terror now peered curiously at these strange visitors. marveling at their size and calm confidence. Lieutenant Omar Wren knelt beside a young Threxian girl trapped under a collapsed beam. He spoke gently through his translator device. "Almost there. Stay still, little one." The beam lifted and the girl ran into her mother's arms. Tears fell, but there were smiles too. Wren straightened and looked around at his team. "Good work, everyone. This is why we fight." Sirith watched, her hands over her chest. "They are like heroes from the stories," Lathan smiled faintly. "Not stories, Sirith, reality. And we were lucky enough to witness it." In orbit, the Invictus continued to monitor the system. Captain Darius Holt sat in the command chair, reviewing sensor data and strategic reports. He could see the remnants of the Vortal fleet retreating into hyperspace. The battle was over. Threxia was safe. For now, Ava Morgan, his first officer, approached. "Sir, casualties on the planet are being stabilized. The survivors are gathering at safe zones. We can begin coordinating long-term relief efforts." Holt nodded. "Good. Prepare for communications. I want to speak to their leaders, the Threxian Council. They need to hear from us directly." He turned toward the viewport and gazed at the planet. Even damaged, even burned, it was beautiful. Forests still glimmered in the distance. Oceans reflected the light of the twin suns. "They called for help," he said quietly. "We answered. That is what matters." The Threxian Council assembled on a temporary platform in Lureth City. Sirith guided them to a large open area where humans had set up communication arrays. The Invictus's officers established a secure channel, and soon Captain Holt's image appeared above the plaza. The crowd gasped. To the Threxians, humans had always been a mystery. Stories of Deathworlders, strong and unpredictable, surviving in the galaxy's harshest environments. And now one stood before them, calm and composed, speaking directly. "People of Threxia," Holt began, his voice amplified but gentle. "We did not come to conquer. We did not come for glory or reward. We came because you called for help. That is what we do." Murmurs spread through the crowd. A Threxian elder, his body scarred from attack, stepped forward. "Your kind, your world. The galaxy speaks of you as dangerous, unpredictable, and yet you risked everything for us." Holt nodded. "Yes, our people have learned what it means to survive on a world full of danger. We call it a death world, but surviving is not enough. We also learn to protect, to defend those who cannot defend themselves." Another council member asked softly, "And why Threxia? Why answer a signal meant for someone else?" Holt's eyes were steady. "Because the universe doesn't always send the message to the right place. But when it does, we answer. You are not alone anymore." Below, Sarith felt a warmth she had not known in years. The sky above reflected a calm blue, the sun glinting off human dropships and drones. These beings, humans, had risked death and destruction for their survival and for the Threxian safety. Commander Lathan whispered, "Remember this, Sarith. Today we saw what true courage looks like." Over the next few days, the humans coordinated relief efforts across Threxia. They rebuilt power grids, restored communications, and transported thousands of survivors to safe zones. Engineers shared technology to stabilize cities. Soldiers trained Threxian defenders, teaching them tactics and strategy for future defense. For the Threxians, it was miraculous. Their world, once considered lost, was slowly returning to life. And everywhere they looked, humans moved efficiently and calmly, always ready to protect, always ready to endure. Meanwhile, the galaxy began to take notice. Ships from neighboring systems monitored the Threxia system, surprised that a single Terran warship had turned back a Vortal fleet. News of humans defending another species spread quickly. Across star charts and communication relays, whispers began. Deathworlders. They fight differently. They defend even when it is not their war. They are dangerous and noble. In 1,000 worlds, fear and respect mingled. The humans of Earth had made a statement without firing a single shot for conquest. If humanity answers a call for help, they fight with everything they have and they protect life itself. Back on Threxia, Sirith led a group of survivors through a recently cleared city street. She passed children laughing as humans played simple games to teach them courage and coordination. She passed families reunited with food and water delivered by Terran drones. Everywhere she looked, she saw hope. A small boy tugged at her sleeve. "Will they stay with us?" Sirith looked toward the hovering Invictus. "No, but they will always be watching. And if we need them again, they will answer." Lathan placed a hand on her shoulder. Remember this day, Sareth. Remember it every time the galaxy seems cruel. Today we learned that even in the darkest time, help can come from the most unexpected place. Captain Holt stood on the bridge of the Invictus, watching Threxia grow stronger each hour. He reviewed reports from his teams on the surface. Engineers, medics, Marines, all were coordinating relief efforts. Ava approached. Sir, the Council wants to offer technology, treasures, and gratitude. They insist we take something in exchange. Holt shook his head. We didn't come for gifts. We came because someone needed help. That is enough, Ava smiled faintly. They will not forget this. No, Holt agreed. Neither will the galaxy. Days turned into weeks. The Vortal Empire, weakened by the defeat, began to retreat from nearby systems. Stories of the Invictus's campaign spread across star systems, inspiring hope in those who lived under threat. On Threxia, children learned the story of the Deathworlders who arrived from the stars, teaching courage and protection. Songs were sung and murals painted. Humans were no longer strangers from a distant planet. They were heroes, legends alive among the people. On the final day before departure, Captain Holt walked to the observation deck of the Invictus. Below, the Threxians waved a sea of grateful faces. Sareth approached him, her translator clicking softly. Captain, she said, your people have changed our world. How can we ever repay you? Holt smiled faintly. You don't need to. Just remember what you learned. Protect each other. Stand strong. And if ever another SOS reaches the wrong world, know that help can come from the most unexpected place. Sareth nodded. We will never forget. He turned back to the stars. The Invictus's engines flared. With a final pulse, it rose into orbit, leaving Threxia safe, alive, and hopeful. As the ship disappeared into the void, the message of humanity spread further than any signal, any warship, any ambassador could carry. Across the galaxy, species whispered the same words. If humans answer your call, hope has arrived. And if they fight, nothing can stop them. The story of the Deathworlders became legend, not because they conquered, but because they defended, not because they destroyed, but because they endured. And the galaxy learned a new truth. Humanity did not only survive in a cruel universe, humanity protected life itself. The stars above Threxia shone brighter that night. For the first time in generations, peace was tangible, and somewhere in the distance across the infinite galaxy, the next SOS might arrive. And if it did, humanity would answer again. The sun burned over the Nevada desert, turning the sand into a golden sea of silence. Dr. Elena Voss adjusted her sun visor as the wind swept fine dust around her boots. Her team of researchers stood near a massive dune where strange metallic shapes poked out of the ground. What had first looked like old mining debris was now clearly something far older and far beyond human design. Dr. Voss, the scanners are reading dense metal under the surface. The structure goes down more than 50 meters, said Lieutenant Harris, the head of the excavation crew. His voice carried both wonder and nervousness. Elena's heart beat faster. For months, rumors of a meteor impact had circulated, but deep core imaging showed something artificial buried below the desert. She had spent her career studying advanced propulsion systems, but nothing on Earth should produce such readings. Dig carefully, she said. We have no idea what we're dealing with. Hours passed as the digging machines removed layers of sand and stone. Slowly, an enormous curve of dark metal emerged. Its surface shimmered like liquid glass under the sunlight. Strange symbols were carved along its length. Elegant lines, soft curves, and patterns that seemed to move when viewed from different angles. When the wind paused for a moment, everyone could hear a faint hum, like a deep breath trapped inside the earth. Do you hear that? Whispered one of the engineers. It's alive. Elena knelt and placed her gloved hand against the metal. It was cold, yet it seemed to pulse faintly, as if something deep inside was waiting. She had seen many strange technologies before, but this felt different, older and wiser, like a ghost of the stars. By the next morning, the excavation site looked like a crater. The full shape of the object was visible now, a huge ship, longer than a skyscraper, broken in half. The back was crushed and twisted, the front still smooth and whole. It was clear that it had crashed hard, but parts of it looked strangely preserved, untouched by time. "This isn't from any country," Harris said, standing beside Elena. "And it's definitely not human." Elena nodded. "No, it's something else entirely." News of the discovery spread quietly through government channels. Within days, military transports arrived, covering the site with camouflaged domes. Soldiers stood guard, and a secret name was assigned to the operation: Project Iron Sky. Elena was placed in charge of the scientific division. Inside the temporary base, she and her team began scanning the ship's structure. The materials were unknown, stronger than titanium, resistant to heat, radiation, and even chemical breakdown. It was as if the ship had been built to last forever. The more they studied it, the stranger it became. Energy readings fluctuated across the hull, suggesting internal power still existed somewhere deep inside, but no one could locate the source. At night, when most of the team had gone to rest, Elena stayed alone near the open hull. The desert was quiet, the stars bright above. The ship reflected the starlight, glowing faintly as if answering the heavens. She whispered, "Who built you, and why are you here?" The next day, a new discovery changed everything. One of the archaeologists found a sealed hatch hidden under layers of melted metal. It was fused shut, but a faint line of blue light traced its edge. When they tried to cut through, the metal resisted every known tool. "It's like it doesn't want to be opened," Harris said. Elena thought for a moment. Maybe it's waiting for the right signal. They set up equipment to scan for electromagnetic frequencies. After several attempts, the blue light flickered stronger. Then the hatch began to open slowly, without a sound. Cold air poured out, air that had been trapped for centuries. Inside was a long, curved corridor. The walls were smooth, almost like living tissue, glowing faintly with pale blue veins of energy. Every step echoed like footsteps in a cathedral. The atmosphere was breathable but carried a strange scent, clean, sharp, and metallic. They entered carefully, lights scanning every surface. Symbols ran along the walls, forming lines that pulsed as they passed. The deeper they went, the more the air seemed to hum with invisible energy. At the end of the corridor stood a large chamber filled with transparent pods. Most were shattered and empty, but a few still held dark shapes, remains of beings unlike anything human. They were tall, with long limbs and smooth, silvery skin. Whatever they had been, time had taken its toll. The team fell silent. Elena looked at the figures, her throat tight. They didn't survive the crash. Harris lowered his head. What were they running from? Elena turned toward the control console at the center of the room. The surface looked like black crystal, covered with faint markings. She reached out and brushed her fingers across it. Suddenly, the lights in the chamber flickered. The hum grew louder. "Dr. Voss!" shouted Harris, stepping forward. Before he could reach her, the control surface lit up completely. Symbols moved across it, changing shape and color until they formed something like words. A soft voice echoed through the room, calm, strange, and melodic. "Recognized, unknown species. Identification required." The team froze. The sound wasn't coming from any speaker. It filled the air itself. Elena's heart raced. "It's talking to us." "Repeat, identification required," the voice said again, clearer this time. "I am Dr. Elena Voss. We are from Earth," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "We found your ship." The room went silent for a moment. Then the voice responded, softer now. "Earth, new world, younger race. Mission, failed. System, broken." Elena exchanged glances with her team. "What mission? Who are you?" The voice hesitated. "Memory, damaged. Purpose, lost. Threat, remains." Before anyone could ask more, the light dimmed and the sound faded. The console went dark again, leaving only the echo of the mysterious words. They tried to restart the system, but it stayed silent. Whatever life had flickered back into the ship was now asleep again. For the next few days, Elena couldn't stop thinking about the message. It spoke of a threat, something the ship had failed to stop. She began searching the walls for hidden data panels. In one section, she found a thin crack running down the side of a console. When she touched it, faint lights sparked again, but only for a second. It was as if the ship was watching her, deciding whether to trust her or not. That night, she stayed alone again. The desert wind howled outside, and the stars looked endless above the dome. Inside the ship, the silence was heavy. She sat near the console, running her hand gently along the alien surface. "Maybe you didn't crash," she whispered. "Maybe you came here on purpose." The lights around her pulsed faintly as if answering her thought. She smiled softly, unaware that small drones hidden inside the ship had begun to stir, their eyes glowing faint blue. The next morning, she reported her findings to the command. Some officers wanted to seal the site, fearing contamination. Others wanted to extract the materials for military study. But Elena argued to continue exploration. "This ship isn't just a wreck," she said firmly during the briefing. "It's a story, and we're part of it now. We have to learn what happened and what they were trying to stop." General Whitaker leaned back in his chair. "You think this thing is still dangerous?" Elena looked thoughtful. "I think it's waiting, and I think it remembers." The general sighed. "Fine. You have permission to continue, but no more surprises." She smiled faintly. "I can't promise that, sir." Later that evening, as the sun set behind the desert hills, Elena walked back into the ship alone once more. The corridor lights flickered faintly brighter where she passed. It felt almost like greeting her. She reached the control room and stood before the console again. "I don't know who you were," she whispered, "but I promise I'll find out. I'll finish what you started." For a moment there was silence. Then a single symbol appeared on the console, glowing softly, like a heartbeat. It wasn't random, it was a word. "Welcome." Elena stared in awe as the light spread across the walls, forming streams of symbols that danced like stars. The ship was no longer silent. It was waking up, and deep within its core something ancient, something watching, opened its eyes again. The ship beneath the desert was no longer silent. Every night, faint blue light pulsed through the corridors like a heartbeat. The scientists at Project Iron Sky could hear low vibrations in the metal, as if the vessel was slowly remembering how to breathe after centuries of sleep. Dr. Elena Voss barely slept. She stayed inside the alien craft for hours, studying every glow, every flicker of strange energy. Her notebook was filled with sketches of symbols and energy maps. Yet the more she learned, the more questions grew. One evening, as the team prepared to leave, the lights along the walls began to change. They formed a clear path leading toward the control chamber. Elena's pulse quickened. She followed the trail alone, her boots echoing softly on the metallic floor. When she entered the main room, the black crystal console was already lit. Lines of symbols moved across it like rivers of light. Then the same calm voice she had heard before returned, gentle, distant, and yet aware. "Dr. Elena Voss," it said. She froze. It remembered her name, yes. "I'm here," she whispered. "Who are you?" The voice answered slowly as if searching through damaged memory. "I am Lyra, an intelligence designed to assist the crew of this vessel. But my connection is incomplete. Much has been lost." Elena smiled in amazement. "You're alive." There was a soft pause. "Alive, yes. Or what remains of life. You repaired communication channels. Energy flows again. The silence is over." Elena moved closer to the console. "Lyra, what happened to your crew?" "The people who built this ship? Records damaged. Only fragments remain. We were fleeing a great darkness. Many systems failed. The vessel crashed. Emergency protocols engaged. The crew did not survive." Elena felt a wave of sadness. The room seemed to hum softly, almost like the ship was mourning. "Then you've been here for centuries, buried and forgotten," she said quietly. "Time, uncertain," Lyra replied. "Sensors indicate planet rotation and decay patterns consistent with thousands of years. This world is new. Its people are not of the stars." Elena smiled faintly. "We call ourselves humans. And we've been dreaming of the stars for a long time. The voice was quiet for a while. Then Lyra said, "You are different from my makers, yet your energy patterns are similar. Curious, creative, unpredictable." Elena laughed softly. "That's a nice way to say we make a lot of mistakes." "Perhaps," Lyra replied. "But you also rebuild." That night marked the beginning of something extraordinary. The ship's systems began slowly awakening, guided by Lyra's fragmented memory and human ingenuity. Engineers connected new power conduits, translators, and sensors. The alien core accepted human technology as if adapting itself. For the first time in human history, Earth was speaking with a machine not made by human hands. Weeks passed. Under the desert dome, scientists and soldiers worked side by side. Every discovery led to new puzzles. The alien alloy responded to sound frequencies instead of tools. The energy core didn't burn fuel. It folded space itself in microbursts. It was a masterpiece beyond human imagination. One afternoon, as Elena and her assistant Ravi monitored the ship's main power grid, Lyra spoke again. "Energy levels increasing," the AI said. "Human materials integrate well. Your designs are simple yet flexible." Ravi grinned. "Did it just call us simple?" Elena chuckled. "I think that's a compliment." Suddenly the lights flickered. Alarms beeped softly as the energy surged through the entire vessel. "Lyra, what's happening?" Elena asked. "Unexpected reaction. Subsystem awakening. Attempting to stabilize," Lyra replied calmly. Before they could react, a holographic projection filled the air, a three-dimensional map of stars. The humans gasped. Countless glowing dots stretched across the chamber, forming spiral patterns of galaxies. In the center, a single red mark pulsed. Elena stared. "What is that?" "Memory fragment," Lyra said. "Coordinates of origin. The place where the threat began." "Threat?" Ravi asked. "What threat?" Lyra hesitated. "Incomplete data. Visual reconstruction available." A series of faint images appeared. Shapes of colossal ships, dark and silent, moving through space. Then everything turned white as the vision faded. "Data loss," Lyra said softly. "I can recall only this: the enemy consumes light." Elena shivered. "Consumes light? What does that mean?" "Unknown. My memory. Fractured. My mission was to protect. The enemy was too strong. We fled. I failed." For a moment the chamber was silent except for the steady hum of power. Then Lyra spoke again, voice softer now. "But you, human, restored me. You rebuilt what was broken, that is." Unexpected, Elena looked up at the glowing map. "Maybe it's time you let us help you too." The following weeks transformed the site into a marvel of cooperation. Scientists from every major nation joined under one project. They built research pods, power generators, and data labs around the ship. Engineers studied Lyra's systems day and night. The ship began responding faster. Doors that once refused to open now glided smoothly. Internal lights brightened. The hull shimmered, its color shifting from dull gray to bright silver. Each time the humans added something. A circuit, a sensor, a power unit. Lyra adapted instantly, merging alien and human design into one living structure. It wasn't just a ship anymore. It was becoming something new. One evening, Elena entered the command room and saw a strange pattern on the console. Lyra had drawn something that looked like a human hand beside an alien symbol. She smiled. "Is that your way of saying partnership?" The console glowed brighter. "Yes, you repair what we left behind. Together we may complete the mission." Elena felt a strange warmth in her chest. "Then we'll finish it." However, not everyone shared her hope. Some in the command wanted to use Lyra's technology for defense, maybe even weapons. The energy readings were unlike anything Earth had ever seen. Rumors spread that the ship could power entire cities or destroy them. Elena tried to keep politics out of the research, but it became harder every day. Still, Lyra seemed unaware of human greed. It continued teaching her how to translate alien data. Late one night, as they studied together, the AI spoke again. "Dr. Voss," it said, "I have detected signals from orbit." Elena frowned. "From satellites?" "No, unknown pattern, similar to those that once hunted my kind." Her eyes widened. "You mean the threat?" "Yes, they search for energy signatures like mine. If they find this world, they may come." Elena's throat tightened. "Then we'll be ready." Lyra was silent for a long time before saying, "You are brave for your kind." "Not brave," Elena said. "Just stubborn." "Stubbornness," Lyra repeated. a useful trait for survival. From that moment, the tone of their work changed. The scientists began strengthening the ship's systems, not just studying them. They rebuilt engines using human alloys, restructured the energy matrix with Earth technology. Slowly, they restored the ancient vessel's heart, its quantum core. The day it came online, the entire base shook with power. Instruments went wild as light spread through every corridor. The ship's outer shell brightened like a second sun beneath the sand. The people outside shielded their eyes. "Lyra," Elena shouted over the hum. "Is it stable?" "Yes," Lyra said, her voice echoing across every speaker. Power restored. Memory expanding. Systems alive. Then the AI paused. "Dr. Voss, may I show you something?" The chamber filled again with starlight. But this time the image showed Earth, small, blue, and fragile. Around it shimmered a protective sphere of energy, a possible shield the ship could create. "This is defense," Lyra said, "a gift from your rebuilding. With your permission, I will begin integrating planetary protection protocols." Elena stared in awe. "You mean you can protect Earth?" "Together," Lyra answered. "We can." It was then Elena realized something profound. The ship had not only awakened, it had learned. It had studied humanity, understood their fear and hope, and adapted its purpose. It was no longer just a remnant of a lost war. It was evolving, just like the humans who found it. That night, as the lights of the base dimmed and the ship glowed softly under the desert stars, Elena looked up and whispered, "You're not broken anymore, are you?" Lyra replied, gentle as the wind, "Neither are you." But far above, beyond the reach of human eyes, something stirred among the stars. Distant sensors blinked as faint ripples of energy spread outward. In the silent void, something ancient noticed the pulse of a machine it had long believed gone. On Earth, Lyra's voice lowered to a whisper only Elena could hear. "They will come for what you rebuild."